he's working in the fitness industry right now, and he's a bodybuilder. So he's obviously had a lot of exposure with people that are on substances. Now, Kasper, you go to the gym as well?
Yeah, but obviously haven't gone as long as him, but I'm trying to catch up to him one day.
So, as our friend of the black genetics thing, everyone's always talking about how, like, it is a glorified thing, and it is something that... Hello guys, welcome to Chips and Chats. So, today's topic is substance abuse. Here we have Kasper, Krish,
Isaac,
and Adam. Our guest today is Isaac here. As you can see, he's a very big man, and he's working in the fitness industry right now, and he's a bodybuilder. So he's obviously had a lot of exposure with people that are on substances, and obviously he has a lot to say on the topic. So can you just start off by introducing yourself?
Yeah, so hello everybody, my name is Isaac. I'm 18 years old. I've been, training for, around 4 or 5 years now, working, doing bodybuilding, I've been in and out of that. I've been, dabbling in other kinds of sports. I've been very, sporty kind of guy, athletic, focused on health, stuff like that. So that's pretty much a summary of, what I'm all about.
It's good. And now, Kasper, you go to the gym as well?
Yeah, but obviously haven't gone as long as him, but I'm trying to catch up to him one day.
So, as our first question, what is your opinion on the current fitness industry?
I think my opinion about it is quite mixed. So, there's good elements and there's bad elements. Addressing firstly the good elements, I think, there are some content creators, on Instagram, TikTok, all these different platforms. They provide quite valuable information, in terms of, diet, in terms of training, in terms of recovery, all these certain things, in terms of health just in general. I feel like that's very useful, especially for the youth. However, you could say that it kind of has strayed away in the sense where there are, many creators who are, promoting, stuff like substance abuse, steroids, or just giving, false information. And it's quite hard for the youth to navigate because, they're pretty much like a blank slate. And, I think what we have to do as creators is really put the, correct and the most useful information, forward. And I really think that fitness should kind of, the trajectory should be placed more on, community building, progress of the individual, as opposed to, just entertainment that some of these content creators try to create. Entertainment, vanity, I think those are, the bad elements of the fitness industry, but it still has some good ones.
Yeah. Definitely. And one thing I've noticed is, like, from, for example, your TikToks, etc., you often put, like, natural 17-year-old bodybuilder, right? How do you feel like that's important, and, like, why do you have to specify the natural part of it? Like,
yeah, I think, I feel like people make comparisons on the internet a lot. People are, constantly comparing themselves to, certain other creators. And, so social media is quite an interesting place because, it's not, an actual tangible, area where you can compare yourself in person. You're looking at, the 1%, right? And so when people say things like, natural, they're trying to, I guess it kind of links to the sense of vanity as well. You're placing yourself above others. You're trying to show that you're that 1%. But then again, that can be counterproductive because although, it might be seen as, community uplifting because we're celebrating people's, progress, stuff like this. It can also be bad because, as I say, comparison is a thief of joy. And so it's just important to, set your own goals, set your own milestones, and overcome your own obstacles.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to touch back on what you said there about like the athletic youth being a blank slate. I think that makes them very impressionable, and
Definitely.
given the sort of unrealistic standard that's been set by all of these influencers, especially those that are on PED, right, and all of these different substances. I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, do you think that it's important that we have more people speak up about performance-enhancing drug abuse and steroid abuse? Because given their impressionability and given the unrealistic standards set towards them, do you not think that could cause bigger problems in the future even?
Yeah, I think there's two ways to look at this. you know, there's the good side where it's transparency. You know, people value transparency. I think that's important. But then there's also this, you know, point where, you know, social media now is kind of unlimited. You know, people, you know, children at the age of 11 are getting on social media. So I think it's very important to, you know, understand your audience, understand where the content is going to, and, you know, make people aware of any of the negative side effects of, you know, PED usage or steroids or stuff like this. And so yeah, it's just keeping, you know, I think education is number one. So if a person is educated, hopefully they will be able to make an informed decision, as opposed to making a decision, you know, out of envy or you know, a quick fix, quick results. So I think education is where to start with it. But yeah, I don't think that, you know, they should be exposed to these certain things at, you know, such a young age. But then again, you know, it's, you know, I just don't think we're going to be able to regulate that. I don't think it's going to be possible because, you know, social media, people get on social media so quickly at such a young age. So I just think education should be first.
So you'd say the choice is to each his own. Like, you know, if you're informed about it and you still want to, you know, choose to be on a PED or to be on steroids, you think that as long as you're informed, it should be. It's your choice.
I'm not going to say that it's you know, it's not definitely a good thing to be on like PEDs. You know, I think that there should be definitely, you know, a goal you're working towards, and there should be certain reasons for why you do certain things, and you definitely have to have your health markers in check. You know, health should be, you know, at least, you know, 1, 2, 3rd priority of your life, in my opinion. So yeah, you just have to, like, education is good, but you have to have an informed decision. And obviously it's not, you know, a good thing just because everybody's educated now take PEDs. That's not how it works. You have to, you know, and it's not good to glorify it as well. Like, you don't want to glorify it. So you don't want to say, you know, just because you're educated, you can, you know, take it. It's just, I guess, each to their own. But you just have to be very aware of the risks, because these things are not regulated as much as they used to be, or hidden as much as they used to be. Because now they're very accessible, extremely accessible actually, and you know, you can just find them online. I guess you can just search it up, and yeah. So I think education is where, because you can't stop it, right?
And how, as someone who is natural, how do you feel, let's say, competing or comparing yourself against people who could be on PEDs or substance abuse? How does that make you feel in the world of like athletic competition or athletic comparison, especially in a sport?
I think, like, for me, I'm not really a person to compare. So I like setting my own individual goals. I'm not, you know, trying to, well, of course I look up to certain bodybuilders, just in general, like C-Bum or, you know, Rolondino or Big Ramy, all these different, you know, influencers / bodybuilders. But it's not like, of course I'm working towards a goal, but I'm, you know, not in such a big rush that I have to get their size straight away. You know, it's more so of the journey, and I feel like if everybody just becomes, you know, more aware of reality, and that you can't become C-Bum if you just, you know, take tests, then I think people will, you know, be a little bit more conceited to just, you know, abusing stuff. And I think the major problem is usually when people, you know, they take PEDs or they take steroids, they kind of start off, you know, as you know, the minimum effective dosage, but then slowly that kind of, you know, cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, that kind of carries on. And when they don't get the results, like they don't become C-Bum, they realize there's a problem, and then they start injecting, you know, a gram of tren, which is, you know, it's time for hospital, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
So what about like the term fake natural or fake natty that we're hearing a lot? How do you think this might be harming or at least impacting the youth, especially, as we heard so much on social media? So
I think like fake natty, stuff like Michael O'Hearn, Simeon Panda, they kind of set unrealistic expectations, and it's important to, you know, as I said before, have a realistic perception of you know, what you can achieve. And you know, people usually, you know, they're fake natties because they have an economic incentive to do so, right? So they want to sell programs, or they want to sell their supplements, or they want to sell, you know, even in some cases they want to sell PEDs, right? Which is, you know, kind of counterintuitive. Yeah, so I feel like they're obviously a bad thing for the fitness industry. They set unrealistic expectations, and I just think people should be more transparent, but don't take the transparency too far where it's, you know, bordering on the line of, you know, trying to push it on to people, I think.
Yeah, another thing, like back on one of the topics that you were talking about was the over-glorification of PEDs.
Yeah.
And you see like all of these big YouTubers, like for example the Trent twins,
Oh, yeah.
and like when you watch all these YouTubers, like even for me, like I go to the gym, and obviously I'm not like a big guy, but when I watch these YouTubers, etc., they're big guys in the industry, and when watching them, they edit it in a way and they over-glorify the substance abuse.
Yeah.
And obviously they're crazy jacked guys, right? And when I look at it, I'm like, okay, I want to be that big as well. And they talk about how they got that big because they injected Tran. And in a lot of their videos, they even say like, oh, just take some Tran, dude. Like nothing's gonna happen to you. It's just gonna make you feel better, right? So when watching these kind of things, it just, I don't know, it just makes like a young audience. I'm only 16, but even at an age like this, like honestly, I've thought about like, oh, you know, maybe taking the cycle wouldn't be so bad. Even if it's as a joke. Yeah, one cycle wouldn't hurt. Like even if as a joke, right? You still think about it like, oh, what would happen to me? I might become a lot bigger, right? Because of like all of the effects that you see on social media, which actually may not even be true, because a lot of people that actually take, like for example, one cycle wouldn't have much effect as the stuff that you see on social media.
Yeah.
Because it actually takes a long time for you, even with those cycles, it takes a long time of effort, dedication, etc.
Exactly.
to actually grow big. So
Yeah.
the over glorification is a bit like. So what do you think about that? The main thing.
Yeah, I think creators like the Trent twins aren't exactly, very positive for the youth, in my opinion. Just by their name, Trent twins. So I feel like that is, creating this negative trajectory of where, the young people, can go, right? So they see like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be able to achieve what I want to achieve naturally with dedication. Therefore, they opt for, the fast route. I feel like the glorification is, it's very negative in the sense that it's going to, cause a significant harm, mentally, physically, emotionally, all these certain things that people don't actually know, the actual proper effects of PEDs, except like muscle gain. Like people don't actually know how they work, and I feel like that's, the most important thing. So yeah, glorification is bad, definitely. I definitely agree with that. And people should just provide more realistic understandings and ideas of what the drug is and what the side effects that can entail, stuff like that. Yeah.
And now you're obviously a bodybuilder as well, and you're competing in bodybuilding shows in the future, right?
Yeah.
Have you done any?
No, I'm planning to compete in September in the UK. When I go to uni. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
So how do you feel about like how the bodybuilders that are, for example, they're on PEDs themselves and you're natural, right? So these people that are on PEDs, how do you feel about competing against people like that? And how do you think that, like, what kind of effect do you think that it has on the sport? And do you think it's actually something that's ruining the sport to an extent? Because the ability to do something naturally is different as compared to doing something with substances, right? And do you feel like there's a difference in the quality of the sport, or?
I definitely think that natural bodybuilding is is pretty cool. Normal bodybuilding is also pretty cool, but I think you have to kind of understand that these two are basically two different sports. They're completely different ball games. PEDs can make or break your physique. There is a good responder to PEDs will always outperform or outshow just the natural bodybuilder. So that's why they have these certain divisions. That's why they have natural divisions like WNBF, which they take polygraph testing, drug testing, so they try to secure, make sure that all competitors are natural. The one problem with natural bodybuilding is, there is no reward, in my opinion. So usually for bodybuilding, there's something to work towards. Like, you can name all the famous bodybuilders and all of them take PEDs, but can you name a natural bodybuilder? No. So therefore, a natural competing bodybuilder, that is not a content creator. So that's the biggest issue, because you can only reach so far, and people kind of want to climb up the ladder. They don't want to have a glass ceiling, pretty much. And so they want to exceed just expectations of people. I feel that's just in human nature. People want to be their best selves. They want to, prove to people. They want to show people what they can achieve with their physique, or what they can achieve with their body. And so pretty much in conclusion, those two are natural bodybuilding and normal bodybuilding with PED usage are two completely different things. And I think that maybe these certain bodybuilding organizations maybe place more emphasis, maybe provide more economic incentives to compete in these competitions, because now all the incentives are placed towards PED usage, right? So just about finding the best fit for people. Yeah.
So Isaac, just a question. So as an athlete myself in motorsport, I had to go through certification by the World Anti-Drug Association, the WADA, and I had to go through all these courses and learn what each drug is, and so on and so forth. Do you think that sort of courses like these and getting these certifications are really important for young athletes such as yourself that are going into fields like bodybuilding and football and all of these different fields that you can go to? Do you think that these courses are useful? Do you think that potentially when a young athlete is starting or even thinking about taking a PED, do you think that it would actually prevent them? Do you think that it's an important stepping stone for a young athlete to really commit to a sport?
Yeah, so I feel like, certain organizations do whatever they can, to try and kind of turn the youth in the right direction. With certain, the courses that you mentioned, I think they can be beneficial. However, it's important to understand that there's stuff like social media that obscure the benefits you may receive from that. And when we're being injected with so many, ideas about PED, stuff like this, it's like, as like a child or as a teenager, we're not really fully developed to make informed decisions. So therefore, we're just like, okay, let's find the quick fix. Let's just find what we can do quickly, how we can get bigger quickly. So I think the courses can be good, but in reality, are they? I don't think so, and I don't think that they're going to be able to, change the entirety of the youth. Maybe they'll, resonate with certain people. I definitely agree with that. It's just, in terms of social media, I think that has much more of a, wider and, has the breadth of impact. Yeah.
Do you feel there's enough or even any awareness raised towards like the disadvantages or like the potentially harmful impact of PED use and steroids and these drugs?
Yeah, I think that is very individual based. I would say that as you dive more into your research, you'll be able to uncover the disadvantages with the different drug classes, stuff like this. However, if you just take the average 15-year-old, I don't think that they're aware of the disadvantages that come with certain drugs. I think that's the most important thing, as I said before, but yeah, I don't think that they are aware. Some might be aware. I would say the majority are not fully, they don't fully understand it. And they can't, because, first of all, they don't have the resources to do so. They don't have the resources to take blood work. You don't have the resources, to fully understand. I guess you can go on YouTube, you can go on this, you can go on whatever, but I don't think people can actually fully understand and comprehend, certain, lab results that they post. Because a lot of these PEDs are very new and not researched a lot. For example, SARMs, those are not researched a lot. They have, a few rat trials, but, we're still not aware, even, people at the very top level, they're still not aware of the, the proper side effects that come with it, the long-term side effects, if there's any, organ damage or, if it can cause cancer, stuff like this. So I feel like people should be more aware that these are not researched. And it's very shady how they do some of these things, like they could sell SARMs, they usually sell SARMs as research chemicals. So they sell it with the intention or with the cover up of saying this is a research chemical, so you're not meant to use it, but then people end up using it. So it's kind of like they found a loophole in the market because they don't have the needed research or the needed lab results. So yeah, I think the whole fitness industry has certain economic incentives that kind of push away any of the actual tangible, real symptoms and effects of these sort of PDs.
So you would agree there's not enough explicit awareness on
Yeah.
the subject?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So what do you think of younger influencers starting sales? Like we have Sam Sulek, Trent 20, even Toby, they're in their young 20s, or at least started taking in their young 20s. How do you think this has an impact on the youth, seeing these influencers in their 20s or late teens already starting to take stuff?
Yeah, so I feel like, people aspire, to be their best selves, and the people that they look up to, like even I look up to some people, and then the younger generation would also look up to some people, and so they kind of aspire to be like them, and so once they are kind of, one thing that I value about people like Sam Sulek, he doesn't, put it there, he gives valuable information, but he doesn't put it at the forefront of his, content, whereas like people like Toki, yeah, this Instagram Reels guy, he's like injecting on camera, and I think that is literally the epitome of glorification of PEDs and steroids, because now even Instagram are just allowing it, which I find it quite surprising. Usually, even a couple of years ago they would remove this kind of content, or they would kind of censor the content, but now it's just free reign. I think that's kind of stupid. I think it's kind of stupid, for the youth. I think it's very disadvantageous for negative for the youth, but I also think it's negative for the content creators as well, because now you are kind of obstructing your own image. You don't want to be seen as the crazy trend guy. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I don't think it's a good thing. That's one thing you have to understand. I don't think it's a good thing. You shouldn't be. And I just think people are just doing this because they want to set out a certain personality. They want to seem like they're on edge. They're the cool guy. And I think it's just better to, be kind of drawn back with what you put out into the internet.
And there's actually like a very controversial topic about the policies based on substances like PEDs. A lot of countries actually, and states in the US, etc., they ban substances. Like for example, in the UAE, it's banned, right? So in most of these countries, it's banned, and it makes it really difficult for people to get them. And to an extent, like some people say that it's a very good thing, because then in that case, the people like the youth, etc., can take them. But then on the other side, bodybuilders, etc., disagree to an extent, because then they find it difficult for them to get it, and if they need it for specific reasons, such as in bodybuilding, it's important for them if they want to achieve the best physique that they can. So to an extent, it has its positives and negatives. So what are your thoughts on policies?
Yeah, I think policies are important, but policies, in my opinion, are not really adhered to. So like even though in Dubai, for example, they're banned, it's extremely easy to find. Like you can find it, extremely easily. There are certain other countries like Canada. Canada allows it. But I think that maybe the policy should be a bit more, strict. I think they should be a bit more strict. I don't know particularly how they can do that, but I think the policies right now are kind of inadequate, and I think they could be better.
So now, this is a question that I didn't write personally, but what is it like being black in the fitness industry? Because the question, like the actual meaning behind it, is because a lot of people always talk about black genetics and how they're superior to other people.
Okay.
But
and obviously to an extent,
a lot of sports face discrimination against black people or darker colored people. So have you experienced anything or seen anything happen at least?
So I would say that living in Dubai, I haven't really experienced any real racism, I would say. So but you always hear about these certain things, with specifically with athletes, and how they are kind of valued, in what competitions they're allowed to attend, maybe based on the color of their skin. But I think as a society, we are working towards I think we've come a significant way since just 50 years ago, and I feel like that's it's been very beneficial. And yeah, I haven't personally experienced any racism in sports, but I'm sure there are certain cases, but they are minimal. I would hope and I would expect, but yeah.
Yeah, like for example with Saka in the World Cup, when
Oh,
he
yeah.
missed the penalty,
Yeah,
everyone called
yeah,
him that. Yeah, and even for example Vinicius Junior, when he played, whenever he had bad games for Madrid, everyone used to
Yeah.
scream. The whole stadium used to scream, like slurs at him, etc. in Spanish,
Yeah.
and obviously like it hurts your feelings, right? Like as an individual who hasn't done anything wrong, and just from something natural as your skin color,
Yeah.
it's just a hard thing. And now back to the black genetics thing. Everyone's always talking about how like it is a glorified thing,
Mhm.
and it is something that to an extent is superior to a lot of other genetics.
Mhm.
So what are your thoughts on people saying that, oh, like for example, if they see a big bodybuilder that just happens to be black, they often just say, oh, he has black genetics. You know, what are your
You
thoughts?
know, I actually take that as a compliment. You know, because everybody has their own genetics, right? And you can categorize genetics. You know, feel free to do that. I don't, obviously I don't get offended by it because I feel like that is a compliment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just don't know why people would get angry at that. I don't really get angry at anybody who makes racial jokes, because racial jokes and tangible racism, they are two different things. But yeah, I think people, you could say that black people have superior genetics, but I think that every race has superior genetics in their certain field. There's a lot of Chinese weightlifters, Olympic weightlifters. They're significantly good in that kind of sports, whereas black people might be very good at running. I think every single race has their certain sport that they're good at. But yeah, it doesn't really bother me, to be honest. I think so.
And just to start to wrap this up, as someone, let's say, just to put a focus a bit on Krish and Kasper, as people who don't compete professionally, right? Because we have got your professional opinion, Isaac, and we really thank you. But as people who don't compete professionally but still have big aspirations to move into bodybuilding or powerlifting or all of these huge industries in fitness, right? How does it, because I mean, as someone in motorsport, you don't really hear of motorsport drivers abusing substance or being on performance enhancing drugs, but then in a fitness field such as yours, in bodybuilding and powerlifting, you see a lot of these people. So how does that make you personally feel, seeing all of these people that you may look up to or you may want to be like on PEDs or on different substances and steroids?
Well, like Isaac mentioned, it's kind of hard and it's very human to compare yourself to others. So it's hard, especially for people, I don't know about Krish, but for someone like me who's very into fitness and does have aspirations of competing one day, seeing all these influencers and bodybuilders taking stuff, some of them over glorifying it almost, it can be hard because it's human to compare yourself. But at the same time, there's so many good sources, credible sources, and even influencers like Jeff Nippert that you definitely know of, who explain the side effects, the negatives of steroids, and have gone through so much research and even does podcasts and interview people that have taken steroids. So for me, I feel like, yes, it's hard not to compare myself, but from the research I've done myself and what I've seen myself, one, if you're not planning to compete in your life at a professional level or high level, you shouldn't take anything. You may think about taking something, but if it's not your aspiration to compete, you shouldn't do it because the side effects are just not worth it. And at the same time, if you do want to compete, from what I've heard and what most likely, not most people, a lot of teenagers are starting young, but what most people should do if they are planning to, is wait till they've been training them in minimum 8 to 10 years, wait till they're more or less fully developed, because for example your brain as well it continues to develop until around 22. So wait until after then, wait until your diet, your training, everything's been optimized for yourself before you even properly consider hopping on. And then as Isaac mentioned, make sure you have the facilities to get your blood work done, and even just simple things such as blood pressure and heartbeat. Do you have anything to add, or?
Yeah, I think it sums up everything.
Thank you.
I just have one last thing to ask you about, like, because you're in the industry, fitness industry, you've come across a lot of people, I'm assuming, who are on PEDs, etc.
Yeah.
And one thing that we've always seen is like, especially online, is like the mental effects, like mental health issues that are caused by PEDs, or mental health issues that lead to the use of PEDs. So, for example, a lot of people are insecure about their physiques, which leads them to hopping onto on PEDs. Or some people think that, oh, okay, I've reached my maximum ability and there's no way for me to improve now, even though there obviously is, but it's a very slow growth. So that leads them to think, oh, okay, since it's really slow growth, I want to start growing fast again, and I just want to become bigger because there's not much room for me to grow because I've reached my max, right? So they hop on as well, and all of these like mental health issues, which it's like leads to them using PEDs, as well as after they hop on PEDs, there's a lot of negative side effects. For example, leads to depression, anxiety, etc. So what is your understanding of what have you seen in the fitness industry?
So I think one of the big motivators for people to take certain PEDs, I think, is the origin is mental health issues. You could see it as illness, you could even see it as just mental insecurity. It can go in a spectrum, but I think that is the origin of where to see things. And I really do think people should stop comparing. And one thing that people don't understand is once you take PEDs, you might feel great on it. You might feel you're like the king of the world on the drug, but at some point you're gonna have to cycle off, and then that is when the issues come. With the PCT post-cycle therapy, it is not the best thing ever. So you'll have a lot of those mental side effects. With depleting testosterone, you won't have because if you take tests or take all these certain steroids, they inhibit your own testosterone production. That takes time. Shuts down negative feedback. It takes time for your natural testosterone to come back and revive itself, and with that comes many side effects, and especially people with glorification of certain drugs like tren. The one main, of course, it has a lot of physical damages to your liver. However, one thing people don't understand is tren is extremely negative on your mental health, right? So that's something that people don't really understand. I've heard a story of this person. He took tren. Watching people like More Plates, More Dates. I'm sure you know who that is. Yeah. With his tren stories, people commit murder, stuff like this. Because it changes your brain chemistry. With other certain PEDs, they're not as mentally taxing. I would agree, because it's definitely a spectrum, but people have to really understand that stuff like tren, halo test, even SARMs like RAD 140 can cause aggression, can change your mental capacity, or it can even change who you are, your personality. You might have personality changes, and so it's quite counterintuitive in the sense that you're taking PEDs to cover up a mental issue, and then you're creating a whole new one, which I think is something people have to understand. Pretty much.
And now, just before we finish off, can you please give the viewers back home a call to action about PEDs and why they shouldn't do it?
Yeah. So my main piece of advice would be to be very educated of what if you're planning to take it, you have to be very educated. So it's having a good understanding of what you are taking and what the side effects are, because those are the most important things. And also, as Kasper said, you have to give yourself time. You have to develop, in the gym. This is with just all sports in general. Is try to maximize, your natural limit as much as possible, so you can fully achieve what your body is capable of doing. So because I guarantee your body can achieve much more than what it already does. And hard work, dedication, consistency, commitment, all these different aspects and different elements of yourself as an individual, I think, are the most important things. And if you want to add PEDs into the mix, obviously I am against it, but if you are going to do so, number one thing for me is education.
Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to Chips and Chats.